Okay, so let's journey back in time, way back to 7th century Arabia, to a brand new city called Medina. We're going to dive into how one single document, a constitution, tried to bring together a bunch of warring tribes into one unified society. But trust me, this is way more than a history lesson. It's a story about a community that's about to face the ultimate test of its unity.
But before we get into the details, let's just pause and ask a bigger question, one that people have been asking forever. What really holds a society together? Is it just about having a powerful leader, shared bloodlines, or is it something else? The story of Medina, well, it gives us a really profound and maybe even challenging answer.
So how in the world did they even start to build this new community? Well, the whole thing was built on a totally revolutionary idea, a society built on justice, not on your family name or how much money you had. And this wasn't just some nice-sounding phrase. It was written down. It was the law.
I mean, just stop and think about the weight of that. It's not just saying, hey, be fair to other people. No, the standard here is to stand for justice even when it's against your own parents, your family, even against yourself. Can you imagine the kind of courage that takes?
So how did this actually play out? Well, it meant a judge couldn't look at someone and see a rich guy versus a poor laborer. They couldn't see a friend or an enemy. In the eyes of the law, there were just two equal people. It didn't matter who you were, everyone had the exact same rights.
And this image here just captures it perfectly. Look at this scene. The judge isn't even looking at the men. His focus is completely on the law, that glowing scroll on the table. And get this, their shadows, they're the exact same size. Your status, your wealth, it all just melts away. The only thing that matters is justice.
But it didn't stop with justice in the courtroom. The second major pillar was a complete rewriting of what makes a person valuable. In a world that was totally defined by your tribe, your race, your family tree, this statement was like an earthquake. Suddenly, your worth wasn't about your skin color or your bloodline. It was about your character. And this wasn't just talk. You could literally see this principle in action every single day. You had people from all over, Arabs, Africans, Persians, standing shoulder to shoulder. And the person chosen for one of the highest honors, calling everyone to prayer, that was Bilal, a man who had been a slave. This was equality you could see and hear.
But of course, a change this massive doesn't just happen overnight without any pushback. This incredible new unity was actually super fragile, and lurking in the shadows, old hatreds were just waiting for a chance to tear it all down.
The first real threats came from the inside. You had people who had spent their whole lives studying scriptures, waiting for a prophet, and when they finally saw him, they knew. They knew in their hearts it was the truth. But they just couldn't bring themselves to follow because of pride, because of old tribal loyalties.
There's this one story from a woman named Safiya, and it is just so tragic. She remembers her father and her uncle coming back after meeting the prophet. Her uncle asks, "Is it really him?" And her father says, "Yes, it is." Then comes the next question. "So, what now? What are you going to do?" And his answer is just chilling. "Enmity, I swear, for as long as I live."
You can almost feel the crushing weight of that choice in this picture. They just look completely drained, exhausted, swallowed by this deep sadness. It's the kind of exhaustion that comes from knowing the truth, but actively choosing, to fight against it. That's a spiritual burden that's heavier than anything else. So while some people were wrestling with this conflict inside themselves, others were actively trying to burn the whole thing down from the outside. There was this old man, Sha'iz ibn Qais, and when he saw the two rival tribes, the Us and Khazraj, now united as brothers, he was furious. He couldn't stand it. So he cooked up a nasty little plot to tear them apart. And this image says it all, doesn't it? Out in the light, you've got brotherhood, laughter, peace. But hidden back in the shadows, you have Sha'iz whispering his poison, sending a young man to go and destroy it all. It's a perfect picture of how division starts. The plan itself was simple, but absolutely devastating. He told a young man to go sit with them and recite poetry about their old, brutal civil war, a time called the Day of Bu'ath. The idea was to just poke and scratch at those old wounds until they started bleeding again, to make them forget their new brotherhood and only remember their old hate. And the absolutely terrible part is, it worked. That fragile peace, the one built on these beautiful high ideals, was about to shatter into a million pieces. The poetry did exactly what it was supposed to do. All these memories of their fathers, their uncles who were killed in that war came flooding back.
And just like that, the bonds of faith evaporated in this hot rush of tribal anger. Men who were just laughing together were now on their feet, screaming, ready to kill each other.
The whole scene just devolved into total chaos. They started shouting, "To arms," and grabbing for their weapons. They actually made a plan to meet outside the city at a place called Al-Hara to settle it with swords, just like they did in the bad old days. The peace was gone.
You know, a verse that was revealed in the Quran later on described this moment perfectly. It says they were standing right on the edge of a pit of fire, the fire of war, the fire of hate, just about to fall right in.
But right then, just as they were about to go over the edge, something happened. An intervention. The community was about to be pulled back, saved by the very thing they had almost thrown away.
Word got to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and he rushed over, and his voice just cut through all the anger. He wasn't begging them, he was challenging them. Are you really going back to the call of ignorance while I am still here among you, after everything God has given you?
It was like someone flicked on a light in a pitch-black room. His words made them snap out of it. They realized instantly what was happening, that this was a trick from their enemy, a plot to destroy them. And all that red-hot anger just vanished, replaced by this overwhelming wave of shame and regret. The change was immediate. It was total. They dropped their weapons right there on the ground. They started crying, just overcome with regret for what they had almost done. And then, these men who were seconds away from killing each other, they started hugging one another. Their brotherhood was restored just like that.
And this, right here, brings us to the central lesson of the whole story, the rope of God. What is that? It was their shared faith, their commitment to something higher than their tribe or their pride. That was the rope that pulled them back from the edge. It was the one bond strong enough to hold them together when everything else was trying to rip them apart.
So this ancient story from Medina gives us a pretty powerful answer to that question we started with. What holds a society together? It suggests that a deep commitment to justice, to real equality, and to a shared higher purpose, that can be the rope that saves a community from falling apart. Which really just leaves us with one last thought. When those whispers of division start up in our own time, when old hatreds get stirred up, what's the rope that holds us together? What's the principle that's strong enough to keep us from the brink?